Hello and welcome everybody to Capital of Chess. My name is Jack, and today we're looking at the English attack, which is a response to the Sicilian Najdorf. The English attack was developed by some very strong English grandmasters back in the 1990s, mainly John Nunn and Nigel Short, but it didn't receive too much recognition until it was used by the top GM at the time, Michael Adams. So, without any further ado, let's get into it. It starts out with e4, c5, knight f3, d6, d4, c takes d4, knight takes d4, knight to f6, knight c3, a6, and bishop e3. Now with this, white is preparing to fight in Yugoslav attack style. He's going to play f3, queen d2, and castle queenside. With this, now, black has a few responses to this move. He can either play e6, he can play e5. The one we're looking at today is e5, but he can also play e6, which was favored by the one and only Garry Kasparov. e5, knight b3, bishop to e6, f3, bishop e7, queen d2, castles, and castles. And this is the junction for black. He can play a couple different moves in this position. He can play b5, he can play a5, or he can play knight b to d7. Knight b d7 is actually my favorite move in this position, and I think it's black's best hope in this position. Alright, anyway, we'll look at the worst move first, which is a5. And now after bishop to b5, black doesn't have a lot of ways to attack white on the queen side anymore. I mean, his queenside pawns are already frozen. It's only move 11. And he's going to have to waste some time by playing knight a6 and back to c7 to get rid of this bishop here. And in the meantime, white is going to lash out on the king side with these aggressive moves and really tear black to shreds over here. So it's not really losing the game, but it's hard to say what black's really going to do about it. Alright, so now black can also play b5, but this is also slightly dubious, because after g4, b4, white will play knight to a4, and he's already taking advantage of this weakened b6 square, and he's going to put a piece there. So black has to defend it by playing knight b d7, and after queen takes b4, d5, knight to bishop c5, knight takes c5, knight a takes c5, queen to c8. Black is hoping that he can get some counterplay through this pin, but white is just going to play queen to b6 and break the pin, and after d takes e4, knight takes e6, f takes e6, and queen to e3, black's pawn structure is going to lead to his demise, along with this somewhat weakened diagonal to his king. So anyway, let's get back to the main line, knight b to d7, and now g4, and now he can either play queen c7 or b5. Let's take a look at b5 first. After b5, g5, b4, white will save his knight by retreating to e2, and now knight to e8. And this knight looks like a bit of a sad placed piece, but black's counterplay comes rather quick with a5 and a4. That white can't just say, oh, it's not really doing anything, it looks like the road is open on the king side. Well, he's sorely mistaken and is probably going to get massacred on the king side if he takes his time on the queen side, if he takes his time and leisures with his king side attack. He's still got to be quick. So he immediately targets the weakened squares on f5 and h5. So now a5, continuing with the plan, king b1, getting the king off potential tactics along the c-file, a4, knight to c1, knight to b6, knight f5 is worthy of an exclamation point because it's sticking the knight on a very good square where he's really going to be working against black's king. He's got potential tactics by maybe when the rook comes to g1 playing knight h6 check and opening the g-file. So it's best for black to eliminate this bishop with the knight with bishop takes f5 and e takes f5. And now white has a good advantage here because he's going to play f6 with tempo and open black's king side. So the other move we need to look at after b4, or excuse me, not after b4, after g5, is knight to h5. But this is going to give white an advantage after knight d5, bishop takes d5, e takes d5. f5 is trying to get something going on the king side so he doesn't get massacred over here on the queen side, because black has already realized at this point that playing knight h5 was a mistake, and he has to somehow try and do something against this knight a5 c6 idea. But after g takes f6, bishop takes f6, knight a5, queen c7, knight c6. This is a 6th rank octopus as described in How to Reassess Your Chess by Jeremy Silman. It's hitting all these squares in black's camp, and this is not pleasant for black to defend. The other main alternative to playing b5 is queen to c7 in this position here. This move is a little slow, but after king to b1, just playing logical chess, getting the king and queen off the same file. Rook f to c8, g5. Now it's safe to play. Now it's safe to play this move here because the knight hasn't gone to d5 yet, which it does right away. Bishop takes, e takes, knight b6, rook g1, knight c4, bishop takes, queen takes, and now white is preparing for the doubling of his rooks along the g file and a g6 advance at some point, just ripping open that file completely. Queen retreats to c7, queen to d3, just preparing this g6 push, and now g6 to stop g6, and now knight to d2. And this might look like a little bit odd because white is leaving his king undefended over here where black's pieces are lurking, but this knight is actually going to a better place. He's going to play knight f1, g3 in exchange on h5 and get rid of this defender here so he can push the h-pawn and use the g6 pawn as a lever, or he's going to play knight e4, f6, and take advantage of the weakened dark squares around black's king. So, this is the main line of the English attack. I've covered the variations that I think are most important, and it's good to know things about the English attack because an interesting fact is that all the world's top 15 have used the English attack at some points in their career, and you need to have, the tournament player needs to have an important weapon against the Najdorf because the Najdorf comes up again and again and again. Sorry about that. So anyway, I hope you got something out of this, and feel free to ask me any questions in the comments, and I'll be happy to answer them. So please subscribe, like the video, and leave a comment, and I'll get back to that comment when I can, and thanks for watching.